Why aren't you working? Do you want it? Do you really want it? If you want it, you're gonna have to work hard. You are going to have to work harder than you've ever worked before. And if you found what you want to do, if you found what you're searching for, or you have that great idea that you're passionate about, then you hold onto that. You grasp it with your fists and you do not let it go for anyone, for anything. And it doesn't matter how many times you fail, it doesn't matter where you are from or what you have or what you don't have. You can get what you want, but you have to work hard and not care if it's impossible.
Let me tell you something you already know. The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's a very mean and nasty place, and I don't care how tough you are, it will beat you to your knees and keep you there permanently if you let it. You, me, or nobody is gonna hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done. Now, if you know what you're worth, now go out and get what you're worth. But you gotta be willing to take the hits and not pointing fingers saying you ain't where you want to be because of him or her or anybody. Cowards do that, and that ain't you. You're better than that.
There was a man named Kaluza, and he did the impossible. He made the impossible possible. Kaluza was researching extra dimensions, and he got this idea from Einstein, and Einstein was trying to understand gravity. You see, at the time, people thought gravity was already understood. They thought that gravity was already understood by Newton, but Newton had only described the effect of gravity. He could only say that an apple falls from a tree down to earth because of gravity, but he couldn't tell you why or how. Einstein asked the question, how was it that the sun, which was 93 million miles away from the earth, but it could still influence a force throughout empty space? So Einstein came up with a theory, and he said that space was flat. Yet when matter is present, the fabric of space is warped and curved, and that communicates the force of gravity. And Kaluza came up with the idea that if there were warps and curves in the fabric of space that communicated the force of gravity, then there must be warps and curves in something else that communicates the electromagnetic force, which was a force that wasn't yet explained. And so Kaluza said that there must be an extra dimension, that there are warps and curves and that communicate this electromagnetic force, but we just cannot see this dimension. It's invisible to the human eye. And if you don't know what a dimension is what we humans class as up or down, or left or right, or forwards and backwards. And those are the three visible dimensions that humans can only see. And so Kaluza did the impossible. He didn't care that it was impossible. He didn't care that he was an unknown scientist, that he was small. He wasn't as big or had the massive reputation of Einstein. He still went on and progressed and persevered, and he found his extra dimensions, but he still wanted more. He found the extra dimension where the electromagnetic force was communicated in, but he wanted to find even more. Now, unfortunately, Kaluza passed away before he could find any more. But his idea, the theory of extra dimensions, it didn't just stop there. It didn't just finish. I mean, yes, the scientist died, but when you show something importance, when you show a theory or an idea, whatever it may be in your life, if you show it importance, it will grow. It is a seed. Every idea, every theory is a seed. Now you just have to plant it, and then you have to water it. And then you have to let it grow, and let it grow into what it should have been, and what it was always meant to be. Nothing ever stops. Nothing ever really stops. It always just gets slowed down. Kaluza's theory slowed down a lot. For a long time it slowed down. But then it was resurrected by another theory. Scientists came up with something, an amazing concept, an amazing idea. You see, scientists came up with this thing called string theory. Now, string theory resurrected the theory of extra dimensions. And string theory is a theory that explains the basic fundamentals of the universe. It basically tries to explain what makes up everything. If we kept going deeper and deeper and deeper until we couldn't get any more, and we couldn't move anymore, what would we find? And here, ladies and gentlemen, I am about to teach you about the smallest indivisible constituent that creates everything. I read a book once by a man named Andrew Zimmerman Jones, and that is a hell of a name. And his book was called String Theory for Dummies. And in his book he said string theory is the next step in our growing understanding of the universe. I read another book called The Little Book of String Theory. It said a deep understanding will eventually be the basis of our understanding of the world. And wherever you look, you keep coming back. Wherever you go, you keep coming back to the concept of string theory being the next biggest step in understanding our minute knowledge of this universe. And string theory is known as the theory of everything. And the way it works is, if we were to pick up a random object, say for example your phone, if we were to break it down by zooming into it to look at it, first we would see the molecules, and then if we zoomed in more we would see the individual atoms, and then from there we zoomed in more we would see the subatomic particles, the protons and the neutrons, and then if we went even more we would find the quarks. Now many of you probably won't know about quarks. Quarks are just smaller particles within the protons and neutrons. We don't really need to touch on anything about that. But if we were to break a quark, it is theorized that we will find a little tiny string of energy, like a filament string of energy. And also similar to a violin string, if you pluck it, it will make a musical note. But here, when it vibrates, it actually creates the actual particles themselves. So if we just take a second, if we take a step back and we just look around the room or wherever you are, every single thing that you can see is made up of these tiny strings. And this is a unified theory, which is a theory that almost all scientists anywhere can agree on. that it can be possible. And you see, the greatest thing about string theory is that when further studied, the maths does not work. Now that may sound odd, but what I mean is the maths of string theory were tried out and didn't work with the knowledge of only 3 dimensions. So they tried 4 dimensions, it didn't work. 5 didn't work. 6 or 7 didn't work. They found out that it would only work with 10 dimensions of space and 1 of time. So that's great. It leads us back to our good friend Kaluza. His work was not thrown away, because when you show something important, other people see that it is important. They do not let it go. When you show people that you care, that is when other people start to care. That is when other people see the importance of what you're looking at, or whatever it is, your idea, your theory, your business, your school grades. When you show importance to something, that is when other people see the importance of that thing as well. String theory is an amazing and a fascinating concept, which is called the theory of everything. But right now, at this current moment, there are probably no practical applications for string theory. There is no reason to think that string theory is going to give you anything practical. But I want to tell you something about Albert Einstein. He was an intelligent man, but even he himself had no idea of what was to come from his work. You see, Einstein came up with his famous equation in 1905. He came up with E equals mc squared. Now he just thought it was an intriguing relationship, but he had no idea that it would result in something as potent as the atomic bomb. Now if you don't know what the atomic bomb is, it was a nuclear bomb that the USA used to bomb Hiroshima and Nagasaki in Japan. And it killed 140,000 people in Hiroshima, and it also killed 70,000 people in Nagasaki. But the lasting effects of the radiation and the terrible effects that the survivors suffered were brutal. And it just shows that even Einstein, one of the most intelligent and incredible men of our time, didn't realize his potential, didn't realize the potential of his theory. And yes, his theory had destructive use, but it also had constructive use as well. Because if it wasn't for Einstein's theory, we wouldn't be able to correct the worldwide global positioning system, GPS. We wouldn't be able to operate it correctly. Now there are hundreds and probably thousands of planes that travel the globe every single day using this same system. Without it, planes wouldn't be able to move properly. They wouldn't be able to know where they're going. The same with ships or any kind of vehicles that are moving. Thousands of vehicles use the global positioning system every single day. And so, what is the point then? Why am I telling you about string theory if there's no practical use? Just because string theory has no practical use does not mean that exploring it isn't important. Just like Einstein and his theory, no one knows where a theory will lead. No one knows its full potential. We do not know what it will show us unless the theory is developed and worked on and tested. Just like history has shown us, we never know how much potential a theory may have. But there's one thing for sure, we do believe that string theory could be the biggest and one of the latest and hugest advancements in understanding our universe. Now I want to leave this video on a note about what I said before. that we do not know what it will show us unless the theory is developed on and worked on and tested. When you have an idea, when you have a belief in something that you think it can result in something good, you will never know unless you take the risk, unless you develop it, unless you put time into it, you work on it, you test it. Test it as in you will fail, but then you will do something better to improve it. You will work better and better, and you will consolidate every single failure and make sure that you do not fail in the future. You will make sure that you will do your best. You have to have the patience as well. I believe in you. Now is your time. Now this is your time to believe in yourself. Thank you.